Alrighty, this has been a little over a year in the making, but I think it's finally time for a demo video. So, say you've got a Jeep or other off-road rig that needs cooling. Lots of it. And let's say that you've got a bunch of electric fans, but no way to control them. Well, have I got a solution for you. I present to thee the Trinity fan controller. Version 2. So this right here is a homemade Arduino powered fan controller that is designed to be the most advanced fan controller on the market right now. You can tune this thing out the wazoo. Settings for days. But don't be afraid. This has been designed to be as simple or complicated as you need. So before we get into it, for those of you that are probably wondering, these kits go for 85 smackaroos, shipped to your door. And I do ship international. Just have to cover extra shipping. So I figure for a kit this smart and crazy, I think that's a pretty damn good deal. Everything's 3D printed and made in-house. So yeah, it's got my name all over it. So when you order one of these kits, you'll get a 10-foot Ethernet cord that you can run somewhere into the engine bay. You get an adapter so you can actually hook up all of your wires. So this is for the power, this is for the fans, any inputs, outputs, all kinds of puts. And it comes with an included temperature probe. So we have these push-in styles here, or if you guys are interested in direct contact, we also have threaded versions. These are metric M8 thread, I think. So with the right adapter, you could screw that directly into some kind of water jacket or something. And if you're looking for factory approaches, with some tuning, you can use factory sensors with this as well. Like I said, this is designed to be extremely customizable to your specific needs. Now real quick onto the engine adapter. So this right here has all of our inputs. So this adapter is conformally coated, so it should be perfectly fine in any kind of water or dirt condition. It's got drain holes to let water out, and it's been about as nature-proofed as I can make it. There's a couple different versions we can get. You've got the 90-degree screw-down terminal style shown here. We've got a 45-degree angle, so it sticks out a little bit. And we've also got a spade terminal version, where they all stick up, so you can put little spade terminals in there. So that is designed to be mounted somewhere remotely in the engine bay, so you can keep the unit inside and monitor it while having all the wiring on the outside. So it'll look a little something like this when we have our temperature probe plugged in, and all of our different wires for all of our stuff for power and fans and all that stuff. So the included push-in probe can fit into the radiator fins like so. So you can press that in there and be good to go. Or we've got other options. So for instance, the 96 and up XJ thermostat temperature probe, I have a profile set for that. So I actually have this one running to the unit as well. So this is highly customizable to work however you need it to. Alright, so I think the best way to show you everything this can do in a snapshot is to show you the wiring diagram. Which, by the way, this guy is included with all the orders, so you can see how to use the darn thing. So over here, we have our adapter and all the wires that go in. So as you can see, we use a 12-volt ignition source to turn the unit on and off, so it turns on and off with the vehicle. Just a regular ground. Our E1 thing over here. So the extra line can be used for two different things. We can read a second probe if you like for dual monitoring or crazy dual temperature control, or we can send it to a 12-volt hot for an extended run timer, which I'll show you in a bit. So second up is our temperature probe input. So if you want to use some kind of alternate probe that goes to ground, you can plug that in there, but it shares the same line with this. So this is the regular radiator probe that comes with. So either one or the other. Next up is our AC line. So this monitors when your compressor comes on, because your fans need to come on with the compressor to keep it cool. If the refrigerant gets too hot, then your system's going to overpressurize and blow out, and you really don't want that. So we've got two different options here. One is to run it to like a compressor clutch or a relay or something, any kind of 12-volt signal that'll run in there so it can detect it. Or if you need a ground switch signal, we can also do that with an internal setting. So that way grounding this line will activate it instead. And next up, for the most important part, the fans. So this is a relay controller. It can't actually control the full power of the fan, so it will require some kind of relay to take the force. So this is ground controlled. So our relay over here, if you've ever seen one before, we have our switch side and our signal side. So the coil is the low side. This is the side that the fan controller is going to control. So we send 12 volts in, and the fan controller will provide the ground to turn it on and off. And then on this side, when the coil has been activated, this is switched, and then our fan will turn on. Simple enough. So 3 fans, 3 relays. And if you need, we've got descriptions here for all the stuff. Everything is internally fused for safety. We've got protection diodes, so you can't accidentally short the thing out if you put things in the wrong way. A lot of safety and testing has been put into this so that hopefully you can't ever blow it up. I wouldn't recommend trying though. Now excuse the screen flicker. This only shows up on camera. This is not something you see with your eyes. But here it is in all its glory. So on our home screen we have the temperature, and we also have some symbols to show us when things like air conditioner are on, and the fans. It's got an indicator LED to see what mode it's in. We've got an override switch, so in case the unit ever goes bad, you can turn your low fan on and off completely manually, no power required. It's got an auto dimming display, and by the way, the display, you can choose what color you want when you order. It's like 6 different colors. But we've got our general mode here. So we're on auto mode right now. Auto mode is the smart mode. It does everything for you. But we've also got manual modes. So say you're going through a water crossing or something, you can turn them off. Completely kills all fans. We've also got manual low, manual medium, and manual high. And it's a little hard to make out, but the LED does change color. Come on, work with me. So you got red, kind of a bootleg yellow, and green. And all of the settings are customizable on the unit. So when we hit this white button, we can go to our different settings. So we've got the regular mode thing that you just saw. We've got a temperature menu. We've got a fans menu, a general setup menu, and an advanced options menu. So when you click on one, you'll see what the setting is, and then it'll give you the actual setting, and you can adjust it up or down with the red buttons, and move to the next one with the white. Okay, so now that you've seen a general overview of what the unit can actually control, now let's go over some of the menus and stuff. So the important thing about a fan controller is the fan controlling part. So I've got an easy mode and a hard mode depending on your needs. So the first mode is target mode. This is really simple. All you have to do is set a target temperature. So when do you want your what do you want your engine to sit at? You know, you set it for 195. All right, that's your target. And then all you got to do is set your delay. So say the fans aren't coming on fast enough, then you turn the delay down. If they're, you know, turning on too fast, you turn it back up, and that's it. So with those 2 settings, that'll do everything you need to turn all 3 fans on in sequence. So that is the easy mode. But say you've got a very interesting setup, or you know exactly how you want your vehicle to run, you've got very specific things you want each fan to do, stuff like that, well, that's where the manual mode comes into play. So for the manual mode, each fan has its own on and off temperature that you can set. You can change how the fans are triggered, and you can easily adjust every single temperature with our shift option. Because believe me, trying to sit there and adjust 6 different temperatures over and over and over again get really old really fast. So the shift mode makes that easy. Alright, and just to show off what that looks like, so we will first go into our settings, our setup mode, and change the control. So here is our target mode, or our manual mode. So we'll start off with target first. So when we go into temperature, we have our target temperature here. So you can set whatever temperature you'd like. And then you have your delay. So for me, I found that about, 4 to 5 degrees is pretty good for my needs. And again, it's completely adjustable, so you can set it to whatever you like. So that's all you got to do for the temperature. And that's the basic settings. Now, manual mode gets a little more complicated. So when we go into temperature, now first we have our shift. So this is to shift all of your temperatures up or down a certain amount. And then on top of that, we have fan 1 on. So this is the temperature that fan 1 turns on. We have fan 1 off. So this is when it turns off. And you have that for every single fan. So all 3 fans can be controlled at exactly the temperature that you would like. But we're not done yet. So let's go into our fan mode. So first we have fan 1, fan 2, and fan 3. So this is our trigger type. So we have the option to use probe 1, probe 2, or just have them on all the time. Or no probe. Now the reason you'd want no probe is say that you only want the fan to come on with, say AC, then you set it to no probe. But generally you want all your fans to set to probe 1 unless you have very specific needs. And again, you can also have it, just AC, you can have it on all the time, whatever you need. So over here is our AC fan option. So this is our fans that come on with the air conditioner. So you can turn them on. Oops. So you can turn them on or off, depending on what you need. So if there's an X, it's not on. If there's a number, then it is on. So those are your AC fans. Now, for you guys that have dual speed fans like the Volvos and things like that, I've got you covered. So we have our 2-speed option. You can have it off if you don't have a 2-speed, or if you do, you can have, like pin 1 is low, pin 2 is high, or pin 2 is low, pin 3 is high, stuff like that. I do have a 2-speed fan, so I have this run for that. So what this does is when high is activated, the low is forced off, because you're not supposed to run both, only one or the other. That is our basic fan control right there, okay? So we've got our target mode, our manual mode, and some of the other, things that you can control in every mode. And there's also a lot of other settings to go over. One of the more interesting options that I have included in here is what is called our extended run mode. So with this setup, if we go back to our diagram, you notice this is ignition, so this will turn off when the car is off. But people that have heat soak issues and things like that, you want to cool down your engine in a hurry when you turn the engine off. Well, this is what the extended run mode is for. So we send a 12-volt hot to our E1 pin, and then on our fan mode, we will turn it on. So go to fans, and we have X run. So X run right here, this is our main timer. So you set this for a certain amount of time, and this is going to be how long the fans run for when the engine turns off. So when the engine is off, your timer will start, and it'll run for a certain amount of time. So you want your fans to blast for 120 seconds? Well, there you go. But we don't just stop there. So we've got a couple different modifiers. So first off, we have our minimum run time. This is how long the engine has to be on before the timer will start. So, say that you flick the key on real quick and you just want to check something and you turn it back off. Well, you might not want your timer to run. So we can set it to, 60 seconds, as many seconds as you'd like, honestly, up to 990 something. That's 16 minutes worth of timer for you to play with. So with something like this, your car would have to be on for a couple minutes and then the timer will activate. So along with the minimum run timer, we also have a voltage check. So the X volt is the maximum, is the minimum voltage that the engine needs to be at for this to work. So you'd probably want some kind of safety feature. You don't want your battery to die. So if the battery voltage drops below 12.4 volts, then the timer will stop early. That way you don't drain your battery. So that could be useful, especially if you have a very long timer or you're worried, you might drain something. That's a good safety check. On top of that, we also have more smart modes. This is our X temperature. So with this is the minimum temperature to run the timer. So, say you set it to 150. If the engine isn't 150, don't run the timer. And when it's cooling, if it cools and gets to 150, it'll shut off early. So that way you've got tons of control on how this thing runs, so you can get it to work exactly how you need. And again, that is the whole goal with this thing, is to do exactly what you need. And just to show you guys what that looks like, so right now the ignition is on. We're going to turn the key off. And you notice now our timer activates. It's a little bright. But basically, the countdown is on the inside, so the ticks will slowly disappear as your timer finishes. And the outside's just to let you know it's running. But I couldn't just stop there. So say you wanted to kill it early for some reason, you're not feeling the fan, you just want it to finish. hold it down, and it'll shut down early. So that is the basics of the fan control setup. So let's start getting into our regular setup. So you've seen control, we've seen our fan control mode, but there are many others to check out. So first off is our unit. We've got options for Fahrenheit and Celsius. So this is, use it wherever you need. And we've got our dim control. So up here is a screen dim. And if it gets below a certain amount, the screen will dim. So that way you have a night mode and a day mode. Very useful because you really don't want this thing, blasting your retinas out in the dark. So on top of that, we can control how bright the screen is on low mode and how bright it is on high mode. Along with that, we have our home button shortcuts. So there's a few different things we can do here. So we've got our mode, so you can quickly get to the mode to turn it to off or low or medium or anything like that. We've got the shift, so say you want to shift your temperature up and down, you can quickly get to that. We've also got flip temperature. Now this is only useful if you're doing 2 probes at once like me. I like to monitor my thermostat and my radiator so I can see how hot the engine is and how good the radiator is doing. So with this you can flip between the 2 temperatures, which I can show you real quick. Alright, so right here is our probe 1, or for me this is probe 2, so this is our thermostat. We can see the difference between the 2 probes, and then here's probe 1. So pretty useful. Depending on how you have the probe set up, you can see how effectively your radiator is cooling, which is kind of neat. You can see it anywhere from 15 to 30 degree cooling difference, which is kind of neat when you're on the highway to see different things. We've also got a battery shortcut, so if you want to monitor what your battery voltage is at, this will show you. So that's all that. And you have one for the up button and the down button, so each one is customizable to whatever you need. On top of that, we have a go home timer. So when you let go, you're not using the unit anymore. It'll automatically go back to the home screen after a certain amount of time. So that way you don't even have to push any buttons. You can just let go and let it do its thing. We've also got the logo, so some people might not like the splash screen. They just want to get straight to the action. No, turn it off. You have the power. We've also got a powerful error mode. So with the error mode on, if your temperature probe is ever shorted out or is disconnected, it will let you know. So say for instance here is our temperature 2 probe. Let's go unplug it and see what happens. So oh no, we hit a big bump. We come over here. Look at that. We have a scrolling error. It says error. It says error. T2. Open. Now if you notice the red light blinks to let you know, hey, something's not right here. And the fans are set to max. So with the error mode, if you ever have a temperature probe issue, if it's ever shorted together or it's open, it'll tell you exactly what probe is wrong, what's wrong with it, and it'll set it to high. So you can walk away and rest assured that everything is okay. And just like that, when the temperature probe comes back, everything is fine and dandy. Isn't that fancy, huh? Safety features, man. Safety features. I've designed this to try to be as safe as possible. Alright, so on top of that, there are a lot of settings. So say you feel like you might have messed something up. Well, we have the reset option for you. So you hit reset, yes, and then you turn the unit on and off, and then everything will be set back to default. So in case you feel like you really screwed it up, don't worry, I got your back. Speaking of back, now on to the complicated stuff. So this is for the advanced users, the elite hackers, the people that need stuff. Fancy. So in the advanced mode, we've got a lot of different things. So first off, you can choose what kind of temperature probe it is. So we have our included probe profile. We've also got the temperature, the thermostat. We've got a Renix temperature sensor. And we've also got a user mode. So the user mode is interesting. So I have an entire large graph of stuff to show how to calibrate a custom temperature probe. It's a little complicated, I won't lie. But it's there in case you need it. And you can also turn it off too. So, you know, if you're not using T1 or you're not using T2, you can turn them off. Now on top of that, we also have a temperature adjust. So say you feel like your probe isn't reading right, you can adjust it. Just say, hey, it's not 82, it's 85. Well, bump it up a bit. That's better. There you go. Now you've got your temperature offset. Now on top of that, we have our temperature 2 in. So for mine, it's set for temperature stat. If you don't have a second probe, just leave it to off, and then you won't have any problems with that. And, of course, we also have a temperature adjust for that one, too, so you can get it just right. Now, here is that custom mode we were talking about. So when we go into edit here, we've got a couple different things. Now, again, this is kind of complicated, and you'll definitely want to look up the included Excel sheet to plot out your temperature and figure out what the values are. So we've got a nominal temperature. So usually that is 25 degrees Celsius. That is room temperature. Next, we have our resistance at the nominal temperature. So usually that'll be, you know, 10,000 ohms. Sometimes it'll be more. So you can come in here and change that. After the temperature nominal, we also have our beta coefficient, which is how the probe moves, like how the curve does its thing. Again, this is really complicated stuff, and if you're not using a custom probe, you won't ever have to use about that, but yeah. So after that, we've also got some manual readings in here so we can see the ohms that the temperature probe is reading. So say you feel like your probe isn't working or the device isn't doing what it's supposed to, you feel like something's not right. Well, you can come in here and see the exact resistance that the unit is reading. So we can see that this is showing about 8.8, or we're going to turn that off real quick. Setup, home, off, back, fence. So on here we can see that the probe is showing 8,800 ohms. So you get yourself a multimeter and you poke it and you see, hey, is that accurate? And if it is, then you know that it's reading the temperature probe properly. And we've got that for the second one as well. So you can see the other one's about 10,000 ohms. So that's useful for double checking, making sure the sensors are the value that they should be. Now next up is the temperature use. So this is the, if you're using, this is only useful for dual probe setups, but you can tell it to use probe 1 or probe 2 as the default probe. So for the temperature, when you set target and, you know, all the fan on and off, you can, you know, choose which one is your default. We've also got show. So again, if you're using 2 probes, which one do you want to show by default? This is only useful if you're not using the T-flip option, but you can tell it to show probe 1 or probe 2 on the main home screen. Now, the next one is our AC input. So remember before how we can change how the input is used? We've got a 12 volt input, or we've got a ground input, and we've also got off. So that is useful for, say you don't have AC at all, well, turn it off. If you have a ground input, well, there's your ground input, or if you have a 12 volt, there's your 12 volt. Just like that. I don't know if you could see that, but the blue light comes on with the AC. So after that, we've got some simple things. So you can see the software version that you're running, and you can see the model number. So we can see that this is a version 2, and it is unit 12. So there you go. That right there is basically everything in a nutshell for what this thing can do. Got enough features for you? This thing's insane, man. It's insane. And there's a few options that I still haven't even coded in yet. So if we get all interior crocodile on this guy, we've got a switch over here, a very tiny switch. This guy, that is used to change between resistance mode and voltage mode. So you can read in a voltage instead of a resistance. And that'll be useful for if you have a custom temperature probe that is plugged in to the ECU. So a couple people were wondering, hey, can I use a temperature probe that's already on the engine? I don't want to put one in there, I just want to use one. So say for instance we come to the Renix, we've got one on the back of the head. See that guy right there? So say you wanted to use that temperature probe, but you want it to work while it's connected. The problem with our fan controller is it needs dedicated control, so it needs to have full access to the probe. If something else is using it, it can't read it properly. So what we do is we switch it to voltage mode, and we'll have to do some calibrations. So there's a few things that we need. First, we need to know what the reference voltage is and what the reference resistance is, and that requires a resistor. In a newer version, I might make that simplified so that the TFC can do that automatically. You don't have to put resistors in there and check things. But we need a couple more data points in order to properly figure out what the resistance is. Reading in temperature sensors is really hard, believe me. There's a lot of complicated math behind the scenes. But it is an option. Again, we like options. Option the second that still needs to be coded in. Our fan controller over here, the relay controller, it supports PWM. So what that means is we can pulse it. That's a pulse width modulation. We can turn the pin on and off really fast. And the useful thing is, by changing the duty cycle of that pulse width, we can control the fan speed. Yes, not only can you tell the fan when to turn on and off, you can control how fast it goes. But it's not that simple. We can't use a normal click-clack relay for that. These mechanical guys over here, you can't. They, every time you turn them on and off, you wear down the contacts and eventually burn them out. So there's no way in heck you could use that with PWM. It's not fast enough, and it's not reliable. It's just, no. And it'd be noisy as hell. So what you would need to do is get a solid-state relay that is big enough to handle your fans. So I actually found one that is in, I think, some TJ Wranglers, possibly some Caravans, something like that. It's a factory PWM relay. It's got a huge heatsink on there. It's like a square block. I still haven't had time to play with it, but it seems like it would work. So if anyone's ever interested in controlling their fan speed, talk to me. I might be able to help you out. So besides that, you know, there's a couple other things I could add, like, you know, temperature delay prediction and things like that, depending on where you put the probe. And I guess we'll go over that real quick. Where the temperature probe sits is very important. So for me, you'll notice that I have mine on the cold side of the radiator, right downstream of the fans. That's there for a reason. You want this to be as close to the output of the fan as possible, so that you have the fastest response time. And what that means, remember, the coolant is cycling through the entire system. So the fans are cooling it, and then we read what the cold temperature is. This guy over here has about a 16-second delay from the fan turning on to noticing a temperature drop. That means that your temperature is going to sweep back and forth very high because there's a long delay. It takes 16 seconds for this cold fluid to go through the engine and get to there and go, hey, I'm getting cold. So by putting it right after the fans, this is about a 3 to 4 second delay. See? So with that, it cycles on and off at a faster rate, so you stay within a tighter band of temperature. And with some smart delay prediction, you would go, oh, this has got a 16-second delay, so we'll turn it on and then try to figure out if we can predict when to turn the fans off so it doesn't overshoot and undershoot. That's complicated. I haven't done the math yet, but it is possible. Just depends if anyone needs it. So besides that, is there anything that I missed? I think that just about does it. Like I said, these things are tiny. You can put them anywhere. I think they look pretty good on the dash. I put mine right next to the REM. It fits quite well on top. This thing is insanely powerful and as simple or complicated as you need. So this right here is the prototype for the version 2. If you guys like what you see, let me know. If there's something you didn't see, please let me know what you'd like to see differently. Because, you know, I'm doing this for you guys, so if there's a feature that you want to see that you didn't see, I can include it. This does have USB, so for you really crazy guys, if you needed some kind of serial output to log temperature or stuff like that, you could do that. You can get data out of this guy. It's an Arduino. All the code is posted online. It's open source, so for you nerds out there, you can code it to do whatever you want. And if you're interested in one of these guys, let me know. Check out the website, check out the Facebook page. Really cool stuff. So anyway, I think that just about does it.